Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to be telling the tale of the most traumatic experience of my entire life. This video serves as a warning to anybody exploring psychedelics, consciousness, spirituality, anything of that nature. Be f***ing careful. I have not really found anybody who can relay and warn against the depths of consciousness. I was not ready. If you're exploring psychedelics, especially in the high doses, you are yet to experience something of this depth. Prepare yourself if this is the path you're going down. Words will never do it justice, but I will try my absolute best to take you along the journey of an experience that completely blew a hole in my reality perception. It completely turned everything inside out, upside down and twisted for months. So trust me, unless you've really gone into the depths of your mind, especially on a heavy psychedelic experience where you literally face your death in the face and it's beyond that. Literally the fabric of existence you get entangled into. Prepare. Be careful, because nobody can explain, words will never do justice, the depth of existence. I believed I knew what I was getting myself into. This couldn't be further from the truth. I had been researching psychedelics, mind, meditation, spirituality and that for a long time, but there's one phenomenon that you'll be familiar with if you've also been on this journey. The map is not the territory. Just because you've heard someone on YouTube talk about this shit, even me right now, you don't fucking understand. And I'm not patronizing you, even I don't understand. I've had up to 40 of these experiences. I'm still discovering new depths all the time. As soon as you think you've seen it all, there's more to see, and it's infinite. These depths are beyond anything that you can imagine right now. Anyway, enough chatting shit, let's begin. So, set and setting. This is one of, if not the main thing to take care of when going into a psychedelic trip. Set and setting entails your entire life. Where are you physically, externally, and internally? Where are you mentally? Are there things that you've been brushing off to the side? Are you been ignoring your problems? Do you have bad habits? You don't want to be surrounded by people you don't know. You maybe want to have a trip sitter with you, which I did not have. The only other being that I had with me was my dog, Luna, which was incredibly irresponsible. And again, this just shows how ignorant I was and unaware I was of where I was going to be going after ingesting this massive dose at such a young age. I'm a skinny teenage boy. No wonder this slapped me so fucking hard, because I didn't have any weight to me either. But I don't want to ramble on about set and setting. Long story short, I did not take care of this and I was completely ignorant. I had no fucking idea what I was getting myself into, but I thought I did, and this is why I got my ass chewed. So what was my set and setting? A 17-year-old boy getting interested in psychedelic spirituality and the nature of reality, and it's really became my obsession. So I woke up on a Saturday morning and I had the entire day free. As I say, I was alone in my room with my dog Luna. However, my sister was messaging me on Instagram that she might be coming over with her boyfriend. I barely even really knew her boyfriend at the time, and I didn't really have much contact with my sister. You want to know who's in the fucking house if you're doing a 7-gram mushroom trip, but I didn't. I wasn't even sure if she was going to come over, and then I ingested the 7 grams. My plan and intention going into this trip, I remember very vividly. Fuck it, I'm going to take 7 grams, finally have a heroic dose, talk to the aliens, meet the self-transforming machine elves, explore the higher dimensions of consciousness. This couldn't be further from what was the result. I didn't really have any idea about having a bad trip. I'd never had a bad trip, so I didn't really have anything to reference to. I'd only had 2 mushroom trips, and they'd only been positive experiences, and because I was young and ignorant and fairly new to the psychedelic scene, I wasn't like scared, or I didn't really think about having a bad trip at all. So here I am, I'm eating the 7 grams, listening to Alan Watts and Terence McKenna and that on the TV, talking about wisdom, consciousness and the nature of reality. I'm having a good time, I'm quite optimistic for the experience, everything is going normally. I remember just laying down in my bed, and I think this is something to be careful about. I'll make a video about how to avoid bad trips in the future, but let me show you. This is what I do now, and you can see this in previous trip reports on my channel. I leave notes around my house to remind yourself that you've taken a drug. If possible, you get into such a thick delusion. I've had bad trips where I've had people talking to me in my face, telling me, wake up, you've taken loads of mushrooms, but there's nothing that I can do. Now the thing about laying down is mind equals physiology equals mind. Maybe it's not a good idea to just lay in bed. Your breathing can become very shallow.
There's something about bad states of mind on psychedelics are very frequently, in my observation accompanied by shallow breathing. You know, when you thread a needle, everybody holds their breath. When we are really following our thought at the level of threading a needle, we stop breathing. If you're not paying attention, this can go on for minutes. This very shallow breathing, you know, you're not breathing, dude. So,
deep breathing, singing, do a fucking roly-poly, do a handstand, get in a cold shower, get in an ice bath, go for a run, shock yourself back in your body. Do something to alter your physiology, because it's all connected. If you eat shit food, you're gonna feel shit mentally. It's the same thing. When I do the Wim Hof method, all of my psychological problems seem to disappear for a moment. It's not all in the mind, it's also in your body. It's not something that you can think your way out of, rationalize your way out of. Sometimes you need to take deep breaths and become present. If I had a negative thought back in the day, I would follow it. I was completely ignorant of disassociating with your thoughts and your emotions. So here I am, an innocent, ignorant, 17-year-old skinny boy laying in bed, just ingested 7 grams of magic mushrooms. Maybe 17 grams will come in the future. So how did the experience go south? So I just remember being in like a dreamy state. I was laying down, staring at the reflection of my lava lamp was on the ceiling, and it was making like a wavy mystical light, and it looked pretty cool, and I was just enjoying myself listening to these philosophies on the TV. And then I needed a shit, and this is when things went south. So I was sat on the toilet having a shit, as you do. I think I had a few negative thoughts. I didn't think too much of it. I had my elbows on my knees with my hands in my face, and I remember just thinking at some point, this is kind of bad. I felt weird and bad, but I was still in like a very weird, dreamy, low energy state, and I just go, this is kind of bad. And I remember like falling through my hands, looking at the floor and the bathroom and that around me. I don't remember the rest of the shit. That's like the only memory I really have, is realizing that this is kind of bad. Whatever that entailed, I wasn't exactly sure yet. And then I remember laying in my bed. So I don't remember every detail. I don't remember the exact progression into the existential terror. But what I do remember is at some point I found myself inhabiting a new realm, a new reality. What were the characteristics? First of all, let's go to the visuals, because I think the visuals do justice to what I was feeling inside. I was expecting to be flying through hyperspace of colours, infinite geometry and infinite beauty. This was absolutely the opposite of what happened. The most distinct one I remember is looking at my weed poster that has many diagrams of how to roll all different kind of joints, like cross joint and a super zoot, which is normally very vibrant, colourful, orange, yellow. It's got loads of pictures and text all over it. I looked at it, there wasn't any text or pictures on it. It was just a grey void that repeated into itself for infinity. What the fuck? It was scary. Even when I was tripping, I was looking at it like, what you expect from psychedelics is like vibrant colours and geometry, right? I literally basically got the opposite. My entire room seemed to lose colour. Everything went really grey and dull, existential, and like repeated into itself. And I'll try and find images to describe that. Another thing is I threw up apple and mushrooms. For some reason I threw up in the fucking sink instead of the toilet, which was then a mission to clean up. It was just like a mess, as you would imagine a throw up would normally look like, but to me it was sacred geometry, a perfect flower of life. It looked beautiful. When my mates came over later, which we'll get to, I showed them my sick and I said, to you it just looks like nothing, but to me it looks like this. I guess that's the only way I could describe it to them. Pure geometry, and it looked like I was looking at the true nature of reality. My room was twisted and demented. I remember my door, it was open. The top of the door was like boom across my room. That sound that I just made is the expression of the emotion of the visual. Like, that's what the room sounded like. It was like there wasn't actually any sound, but if I could give the room a sound, I don't know, I can't describe it. But yeah, I was looking at my door anyway, and it was like stretching over my entire room. Instead of it just being a normal rectangle, it was like and it was the same with all the corners of my room and shit. It was all like slanted. Like if you had a square and you got the two opposing corners and squished them in and it became like a diamond, that's what was kind of happening to my room. I didn't see it like morphing. My room was just twisted and demented. It was so strange. Another sacred geometry hallucination, Metatron's cube. This shape was in my visual field with no other details. This shape was like following me around, kind of. It wasn't my entire visual field, but I could always see it behind everything. It was just there, like the single shape. in front of me. And I don't know if this was like the true nature of reality, or it was because I'd already been aware of this shape and it was like programmed into my subconscious mind. The same with the sacred geometry that I threw up in the sink. But all I know is it was there and it was real. And it was very tormenting. It was just there to make me fearful because it was like I was being followed by this shape. It was weird. So yeah, there wasn't really no like hyperdimensional super sacred geometry visuals. It was like the opposite of that. So let's get into how I actually felt during the experience. Where do I begin? What I felt is that I discovered the ultimate truth of reality, the meaningless present moment. Every idea was a bad idea because everything would return me to the present moment. If you think life is going somewhere, like you're progressing existentially towards something, it's never going to be anything but the present moment. There's nothing to really argue with because any concept or idea you come up with, you can't experience that or think of it outside of the present moment. So the present moment is the end of everything. There is no 5 years, there is no 10 years, there's only this now. So it made everything ultimately pointless. The realization of consciousness and reality existing at all was way too much for my ignorant mind to bear. The fact that anything was conscious at all was absolutely terrifying. Existence is inherently terrifying. There's physical pain, emotional pain. It's not to just be pessimistic and focus on those things, but it's like, fuck, it's really kind of scary to be alive. You don't know what the fuck anything is existentially. If you keep on asking questions, we don't really know what anything is. We have no idea about the origins of reality and consciousness. You're thrown into this matrix of exploding energy and you're just sat at the end of it trying to comprehend it. And this all kind of hit me as like an intuition in this trip. Now it's important to note, I had 2 mushroom experiences before this experience a few weeks prior. Both of these experiences, I had this tiny inkling in the back of my mind going, I don't know if I want to be conscious, because psychedelics open the floodgates of information where you're overstimulated. You can't close your eyes or run away because you are the experience. It's directly happening in your consciousness. Unless you're going to take a trip killer, you cannot escape the experience. In these previous trips, I kind of thought, I don't know if I want to be conscious of this experience. I didn't go into the depths of that. It was just in the back of my mind. It was so overstimulated that it was inescapable and too much, and it was like, maybe I'd rather if there was just nothing at all because it's too complex. So this fear in the back of my mind blew up and took over. So I think this is something that I had to deal with. This is why I'm grateful for this experience, because I don't ever believe I will revisit this realm because I've dealt with these demons now, and this is why psychedelics can be so useful. So this fear of not wanting to be conscious took over my entire reality. At this point I decided I'd much rather not be conscious at all. So I thought, fuck it, I can't do this. I decided that I had to kill myself. This was the end of my life for me. There was nothing else I could do. And I remember realizing this. So I was really depressed back in the day. I'd have a revelation in spirituality and self-help, and I'm feeling so great and optimistic about my life. I'm ready to meet the aliens and the entities and explore my new passion of psychedelia and the mind and spirituality. I take them, bang. What a shame. All of this that I wanted to do with my life. What a shame it has to end now. What a shame I've realised. It was very painful. It was at this point where things really kicked off. My reality got taken over by these tormenting songs and I began to sing for hours. This is why I'm scared to take a high dose of psychedelics. If I get into this state again, who knows? I might be shouting, I might be singing, I might be running. I was not really conscious of the physical external world. I was laying in bed going, It was like my soul was singing of dread, absolute existential pain and terror. I don't think I cried, but this was beyond crying. This is what's referred to as the dark night of the soul, where you find yourself floating in a meaningless sea of complex nothing. At this point, I knew I had to kill myself. It was set in stone. I must kill myself. How am I going to kill myself? At this point, it got even worse, because I realized I'm trapped. The way that I approached killing myself was, if I didn't have a gun to point blank just turn it all off in an instant, then there'd be a lot of suffering. I didn't really have a concept of jumping off of a building or traveling to find a railway. I remember having very vivid visions of going downstairs into the kitchen, grabbing a knife and going at my body because I didn't know what else to do. And I don't know if I would have actually done this, but this was very real to me. The pain that I was feeling, it was just inescapable. I remember being depressed a few years ago, hanging around in the bathroom, having a breakdown. I was going, fuck, I don't want to exist, man. I feel trapped. And this is what was happening to me in this trip. Maybe really this was what I was confronting, as dealing with these traumas. I had no idea that potentially, even if I did kill myself, that I'd still be conscious. These are views that I have now. I believe that consciousness is very likely immortal. I don't think that you can die, because you are literally the fabric of the universe. You are the only thing that exists. So if you die, where are you gonna go? So my plan was I would lay in my bed and I wouldn't move until I slowly decayed. And I could actually feel myself decaying. I don't know if this was real, because I guess technically you are decaying since the moment you're born, because you're aging, but I felt like I could feel my body rotting away and becoming one with the earth and the physical world. I didn't just have visions, I was also living the visions. When I met up with some people later in the trip that we'll get to in a minute, I remember telling them I was literally becoming the earth and the trees. And he said to me, "You're chatting shit, bruv." And I said, "You don't get it, man. I became it, and I was seeing it. I was seeing how I was the earth and I was everything, but I literally felt like my body decaying into the earth. It was real and I literally lived it. I can't relay it to you in words, but fuck me."
Stop right there, criminal scum. It's been a screen recording the whole freaking time. You have been in a holographic matrix simulation energy farm. Energy extraction matrix. That's where you've been the whole time. Couldn't you see the whole time, you sheeple? It was right in front of you the whole time, sheeple. Look how holographic and illusory your reality was the whole time. It was a simulation. Moo ha ha ha. Hello, it's future me. Like 2 months in the future. Keep in mind that while I was decaying, I was resisting it the whole time, and this is the #1 thing you don't do. Psychedelics seem to attack people who want control, in a sense. The #1 advice you hear quite often is to let go, and I've had experiences, yeah, where the experience visually changes after I let go. That's the key, really. It shows you that you have no control, and if you try and hold on to who you think you are, you will time-lapse and decay into infinity. It will just tear you apart. But if you let go, it can be very beautiful. Two sides to that coin, and you got to learn to go with the flow, and it's good to meditate on this stuff before you do it.
In this trip, I needed a piss, as you do. I didn't go for a piss. I'm surprised I didn't piss myself, but I held it in for hours because there was no point in going to the toilet. Because it was meaningless. I was also biting the inside of my gums really fucking hard. They were swollen and shit. I also chipped my teeth. When I woke up, my teeth felt like broken. I felt like I'd really grated my teeth. So psychedelics are fucking dangerous. It's scary to think about what could have happened. I could have took action on some of these things. Keep in mind, this whole time I'm with my dog, Luna. She's in my room with me. I didn't let her out for a piss the whole time because I was just so deep in this trance. This is not how I would ever treat an animal. I love dogs. I've had dogs my whole life. After this experience, I realised, I'll get back to Luna in a second, one of the most profound insights that I got from this. It's too dark, it's lost focus. So I was laying down at one point and the sun had gone down. I remember looking out the window knowing that the sun going down means something, because I knew that my mum was going to be home from work at some point. But I couldn't comprehend the concept of my mum coming home. That's how alien everything became. I didn't understand the concept of my mum and work and her coming home and there being other conscious beings. And I was thinking about what would happen if she did came home, and I thought, well, I would just stare at her meaninglessly, because I remember actually thinking very distinctly, there's no point in me explaining to people how I feel because words are pointless, because it all just dissolves into the present moment. It felt like absolute truth that I was staring at, and even years after this I still feel like it is the same truth. It just depends if you're going to have a pessimistic view on it or not. I don't think reality is inherently pessimistic, but that's what I was confronting in this experience. It is kind of the same thing now. Even me talking to you here, and it's weird to think about as I'm doing it, is absolutely meaningless. There's nothing to ever do.
Every night, I can feel my leg.
Anyway, yeah, so I couldn't understand the concept of my mum coming home, and then I remember thinking about my mum, and I was like, who the fuck is my mum? And then I realised, like, she's like another conscious being, potentially. How is she conscious and what is she going through? Because psychedelics made me realise that the mental world is so massive, and I was getting hit with all different kinds of perspectives. I realised that there are so more perspectives than I could ever fathom. There are so many different realities and potentials, infinite possibilities that I could ever comprehend. So the fact that there are other conscious beings blew my mind, and I went into this state. I remember messaging my sister, asking her, are you okay? Genuinely, are you having a really shit time? Are you hating life? Tell me. And I was reaching out to people, asking them existentially, are you in this pain that I was feeling during the trip? Because I knew how deep the mind was after this experience. It really opened my mind up to how deep the mind can get.
How can you have compassion when you haven't really suffered? How can you possibly love? How can you have compassion for anybody when all you do is live in your little cloistered, comfortable existence that you have constructed for yourself, that you defend every single day for fear of what it would mean if that gets destroyed and now your experience spills over into this end of the spectrum? Compassion and love comes from exposure to the most brutal experiences.
So yeah, I was with Luna. I did not give a fuck about Luna. I hate to say this. I remember later in the trip when I awoke, I was apologizing to her, I was cuddling her, I was kissing her, I was like, I'm so sorry. I didn't really do anything to her, but if I wanted to move, then I would budge the dog out of the fucking way, and it doesn't sound too bad, but normally when I'm sober, if the dog is sleeping in my room, I will sleep around the dog, crippling myself because I don't want to budge the dog. In this trip, that wasn't the case. If the dog was in the way, it was fucking moving. I didn't give a fuck about her. Same with all of my material possessions or anything. For example, I had the Oculus virtual reality headset that I had saved up for ages to get. Whenever I gave it to my mates or anything, I would say, don't touch the fucking lenses, because when you touch the lenses, it's fucked. When I was on this trip, this headset was meaningless. I was literally rolling around in bed with this headset and my dog. I kicked it off of the bed, and when I became conscious and I cared about material possessions again, I was like, fuck. How did I not give a fuck about this? And the same in another bad trip I had. I kicked the PlayStation off of the fucking bed and it didn't matter to me. Same with Luna, same with my family. I hate to really admit that. This was the reality, the state that I was in. Nothing mattered. My plan was when my family got home, I would lay in bed and slowly decay in front of them and just shrug my shoulders. There's no point in talking. It's all meaningless. When you get into this state, and I still have this recently, even with the knowledge that you do come out of psychedelic trips, when you're in them, even if you're about to be out of the trance within a few hours, you really feel like there is no escaping this truth that you've confronted. You see something and now you can't unsee it, but the majority of the time you do unsee it and you do forget. So I'm sat there contemplating and envisioning how I'm going to kill myself, and then bing bong, someone's at the fucking door. As soon as this happens, I realise, oh my god, there's an external physical world. I awoke. My dog started barking and running around. It took me a few seconds to really realise, holy fuck, there's an external world still. Where have I been for the past 10 hours? I get up, I quickly go to the bathroom window, I open it, my mind is racing, I'm like, fuck me, where have I been? My mates are down there, my best mate Reese and my other mate Josh. He's looking up at me and they go, yo G. I look down at them and I've got the most terror on my face I can imagine, because it was so real. This emotion I was feeling was so massive. I was looking down at them and I was like, nah. And they were looking at me like, what? And I was like, nah. Because keep in mind, I'd literally just been confronting my fucking death, and it was the most real and painful thing in every aspect. Try and feel into what I'm saying, because words will not do it justice. And they entered the house. I'm sat on the stairs, alright? They're talking to me. They're like, what happened? I said, I took loads of fucking mushrooms. I've only just woke up when you rang the doorbell. I have no idea where I've been. They said, well, what happened? I said, I was singing these tormenting songs. I knew I had to kill myself. I was becoming the earth. I became the trees and the ground. They looked at me and said, you're chatting shit, mate. And I said, nah, you don't get it, man. I literally became the fucking earth. And I talked to them for a while and they helped bring me back to reality. And then the stupidest thing in the world happened, and this was very funny, but oh my fucking... So keep in mind that I'd literally just faced my death for like 10 hours, okay? And I'm still tripping. I was looking at my mate and his face was getting skinny and fat and stretching up and down. It all still looked like it was his real face, but I was seeing it with a million different pairs of eyes. So I was still very fucking gone. One of my mates was like, oh bruv, do you want some food? And it's very nice of him to offer, but I was so gone, I was like, I don't know man, yeah, whatever. Right, I don't think he understood the depth of my predicament. He was like, alright, let me see what I can make you. I'm like, yeah, whatever, man. He keeps like talking to me while he's making the food on the other side of the kitchen, while I'm there contemplating my whole existence. Understand, I don't really give a fuck about what he's doing, right? A minute ago, it was to the point where I didn't give a fuck about my existence or my family's, and I'd literally decided that I was going to kill myself and there was no way out of that. I'm not really going to be paying attention to my mate because I was literally at the end of my life, so it's going to take a little bit to come back from that. I'm not just going to come back and be like, oh yeah, bro, go on then, what you making? What's for dinner? So if anyone was to talk to me about anything else, even if they said to me, oh bro, did you hear about we're in lockdown now due to coronavirus? I wouldn't even really hear it because I'm still fucking gone and trying to come back from whatever the fuck just happened to me. So he's over there making stuff, he's still talking to me, what do you want, bro, what do you want? I'm just like, whatever, man. Then he comes to me like 20 minutes later with a cold bit of white bread with cold cooked mushrooms on the top of it with ketchup. Let me say that again. A bit of plain white bread with cold mushrooms on it with ketchup. What kind of fucking meal is that? Anyway, I said to him, let's roll a zoot. We rolled a zoot. We had a zoot in the shed. We talked about my experience. I didn't have anything else on my mind. I was just shaking with terror. I was expecting my mum to come home any minute, so I told them, you're gonna have to leave. I need to go into my room and I need to like figure out where I've been, try and figure out what the fuck had just happened to me. So they left, and a few minutes after they left, basically straight away, my mum came home. I was in my room at this point. I don't think I was really doing anything. She was like, hi, and I was like, hi, you're alright. She was like, yeah, good, whatever. She went in her room, she came back in my room a second later. She said, where's my Fire Stick? It's like the thing you put in the TV to get YouTube and shit on there. She said, where's my Fire Stick? I said, I don't know. I took loads of mushrooms. I do not know where your Fire Stick is. I must have moved it around while I was tripping, but I have no idea where it is anymore. I'll try and find it. Sorry, I'm still coming back to reality. She was like, oh, I wish you wouldn't do stuff like this. I said, I'm sorry, I'll never do them again. After this, I'd done them many, many times because I had an ounce of mushrooms and I thought they were going to go bad or something. So I just kept on doing them. My life really turned upside down, but that's, again, a topic for another video. I think that's it. After that, I don't really remember the next days after it in particular. I just remember that my life went very existential for months after that. It took a lot to come back from it. Yeah, that's it. So that was my 7-gram mushroom experience. My first heroic dose. What a great time I had.
Hey, stop right there. If you want to see the lessons that I learned from this trip, then make sure you check out my second channel because very soon I will have a video that was in this video, but then I thought it was getting too long and, you know, okay, I'll just put it on the second channel. So if you want to fucking hear the lessons that I got from this experience, then click the link in the description for the second channel. And me and my friend had a bad trip together, and it was actually basically the same experience. I had this experience twice, so not only was it like the worst thing ever, I had it twice. And so check out this video on my channel. I'll leave it linked in the description as well, because this is essentially the same experience, except I experienced with my best mate at the same time. We had like a bad trip together, kind of. So go have a look at that, because it is quite funny, to be honest, I think. But yeah, that's all. Thank you very much for watching. This video was meant to be out like 3 months ago. This video has been done in the form that you're seeing it now for 3 months. But because my brain was jammed so hard, I just couldn't fucking do it. I literally crashed psychologically. But it's okay, because I'm feeling better now because of many reasons. But that's all. I hope you all live awesome and amazing lives. See you later.